Hi, everybody.
Microphones.
Sorry for the delay. The first thing I want to say is happy birthday to all my brother and sister Marines out there. It's the 246th birthday of the Corps. Founded in, well, that must be 1775 in Tun Tavern in Philadelphia. For those of you who don't know, I'm sure most of you do. So this is elements to consider in preparing a first day cover exhibit. And while I have a consider underlined, it's because there's no set rule on how to do any exhibit. It all depends on what you want to do and your clear communication to whoever looks at your exhibit, mostly judges, what you intend to do. So when I say this is what judges expect, you can consider whether that's what you want to do. And if it's not, you do something else. I'm trying to forward. I'm trying to forward. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. What did you push?
Just hit space there.
Okay. So this is the outline for tonight. I'm going to show you my title page, some pre-production material. We're going to look at the plate numbers assigned to this stamp, the 1948 Wisconsin Statehood Centennial stamp. We're going to look at some first day ephemera, things that aren't stamps, but were around and people collect and put them in exhibits. Then we're going to look at first caches, and I'll explain what that means. Then the caches that are generally available collectors. This is always the biggest body of a first day cover exhibit. It's all the caches that the person could find. And then a few special categories: promotional first day covers, uncached first day covers, generic first day covers, mismatched first day covers, combination and dual canceled covers, first day covers to foreign destinations, and then covers used after the first day on domestic and foreign mail. So this is the title page of my exhibit. It's actually not the one I used at the Great America Stamp Show in August, but it's the point is the same. On a title page, and it's usually on one page, but not all the time. It could be 2 pages. You want to explain the purpose, and this says, this exhibit shows elements in the design, production, and issuing of the 1948 Wisconsin Statehood stamp and organizes the first day covers by the methods of cache production. It also gives information on the cache makers. Finally, the exhibit concludes by showing the use of the stamp after the first day. So I've set out here in this paragraph, and judges will look at this probably a few weeks before the actual exhibit is shown. And they'll look in the exhibit body to see that you've done what you said you were going to do. Very important. The same with the title. The title should be exactly what the exhibit is about. And so after you finish organizing an exhibit, you have to go back and look at that title and say, did I put things in the exhibit that aren't covered by the title? Because if you have, someone's going to remind you of that. Then the background, and I won't go into that much. You basically say, why this is important, why you're covering it, and so on. And then the plan in the left-hand column there, you see my exhibit plan. So this gives the judges a roadmap as they look at your exhibit. So for instance, when you see handcrafted caches, a judge is going to want to be able to find where that is with relative ease. And if this is a 10-frame exhibit with 160 pages, it's important that the judge can find what they're looking for with some ease. The cover, you don't have to put a cover on the title page. Most people do. It should be something unusual, spectacular, not ordinary, and not even the most expensive cover you have or whatever if it doesn't belong there. This cover happened to be mailed on May 29th, the day of issue of this stamp, by Rentschler Floral Company in Madison, which happened to be the day they sent out their invoices at the end of the month. They could care less about whether it was marked first day of issue, but it was. So it's a business, it's a piece of business correspondence that happened to go out on the first day. And the 4 or 5 that I have all came back with special markings on them. And that's why we still have them, because they were returned to the sender and wound up in somebody's file. And eventually I found some. Pre-production, what does that mean? That means all the effort that went into deciding what the stamp would look like, when it would be issued, what color it should be, etc. There was a statewide contest asking people to submit drawings for the stamp. And this all started a year before the actual stamp was issued. All of these drawings are housed in the archives of the State Historical Society in Madison. And there's about 65 different drawings. There were 65 entries that resulted in about 72 drawings, because a few people drew more than one submission. The one on the left-hand side at the top right was submitted by Roland Eustace, who was, I believe, the president of the Milwaukee Philatelic Society. And the one on the far right by Bernard Lewis, who is an architectural designer in Milwaukee. All of the other ones you see here, except the map, which came from an atlas, all of the others were submitted to a committee, along with the 2 from Wisconsin, that were designed by engravers at the Bureau of Engraving and Printing in Washington. They wound up taking the map, and it appears on the violet stamp below, and they took the rendition of the Capitol, which appeared on Mr. Lewis's design, and they put it on the other side of the stamp. So I put that there so you can see a little more clearly where those design elements came from. Another thing that happens before the stamp is issued is the post office sends out an announcement telling you everything you need to know about this stamp. All of the particulars, the color of the ink, the size of the stamp, what you have to do if you want a first day cover, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This is the kind of thing that's not easy to find, but it's wonderful to have it in the exhibit, in the pre-production or in the pre-issuing material that you include in an exhibit. Then accounting for all of the plate block numbers and all of the different positions. It's always a challenge to put these in a way that a viewer can see them pretty clearly. So if you're looking at 23812, the upper right, which is in the upper left of the graphic, you can match them up with the others in the other spaces. So I show all the upper rights together, all the upper lefts together, etc. And it's important to account for all of the plate numbers when you put a first day cover exhibit together. In addition, and I do this, not everybody does, I try to get a matching set of plate blocks on the first day envelope. And so I've done that for 2 in my exhibit. I have ones for the others, but to put all 4 would be, it would be too much. Then the second area of my exhibit is what I call first day ephemera. These are things that were used during the day, thrown away, a few were saved. And when you have a first day cover exhibit, it's nice to be able to show these. So I show 4 different or 3 different items. On the left, the official program of the first day, what bands were marching around the Capitol, who was there, blah, blah, blah. The other one was a proclamation by Governor Renebaum, which includes a history of Wisconsin. It's a much bigger piece. It's 23 pages, as you see there. This is the hardest piece to find for me. It's the program specific to the stamp ceremony. So when you open it up, it's who the speakers were, et cetera, et cetera. It's nice to have one signed by all the participants. This one was not signed. I'm still looking for that. So if you go into your philatelic treasures tomorrow and you find a signed copy of the souvenir program for this stamp, I'm very interested in talking to you. More ephemera. Lots of people come to first day ceremonies. The one in the upper left, signed by the governor, is actually on a corner card for the Postmaster General, because he had some envelopes sent to be serviced on that first day in Madison. The one on the bottom has a lot of signatures on it. It's a very special cover. A woman in the Madison Stamp Club, her father or her grandfather, I'm pretty sure it was her father, was the postmaster in Madison at the time of the issuing of this stamp. So this came from his personal things when he passed away, and she knew I collected this, and as I was able to get it. It has the signatures of everybody who was anybody in the postal business on that day. On the right-hand side, these are actually two separate pages in my exhibit, incidentally, but on the other side are more from Governor Rehnbaum, Senator Wiley, and the Bishop of Madison. First day cancels. It's important to account for the different canceling devices that were used on the first day. So on the left-hand side, there are two different machine cancels, and they differ in the size of the bars that go through the stamp. Now, in my latest exhibit, I actually did a census of about 300 covers with a machine cancel, and I measured those horizontal bars, which only differ in about a millimeter. I measured every single one of them. Very tedious. I was happy to be done with it. On the other side, again, different size hand stamps that were used. You can see, I mean, it's visually evident that the one on top has shorter horizontal bars than the other. These were not as plentiful as machine cancels, as you might guess. And I also did a study of those that I report in my latest version of this exhibit. Okay, now the stamps are all printed, the first day ceremonies are over, and now we're going to look at first day cancels. Excuse me, these were first day cancels, the hand stamps and the machine cancels. Now these are unofficial cancels. So unofficial first day cancels are those that appear on covers canceled in cities other than the first day city. So you see Fond du Lac, Manitowoc, Chicago, St. Louis, Milwaukee. All of these, it would be conceivable for someone to buy a stamp in Madison that day and to go to these respective cities to have them canceled. Even though, obviously, going to St. Louis, you better get going quickly. On the other side are two covers. One's canceled in Brooklyn and one's canceled in Norfolk, Virginia. Now, it's likely, although I don't know this for sure, it's likely that these were done as a favor to a philatelist who brought the cover with the stamp on it to this embarkation station in New York and had someone cancel it some days after the first day. The same with the USS Fremont. It was home ported in Norfolk, and naval postal clerks are notorious, although to a collector, we're happy they were around. They often canceled covers with their ship stamp some days after the first day. It's hard to prove that one way or the other. Now we're into first day caches, and it's a little bit obscured by that green thing at the top of the page, but what that says is first caches. These are caches that were issued by a person or an organization for the very first time. And as you see from here, these are all stamp societies. The one on the right was the Madison Stamp Club, and I show I show one cover with a block of 4, and the other one that has it went through the printer, the cachet printer, and part of it was missing. So it seemed worth showing. So the Eau Claire Stamp Club, the Fond du Lac Stamp Club, the Madison Stamp Club, this was the first time that they had issued a first day cover. And here are more things from the Madison Stamp Club. The one on the left in the airmail envelope included a little card which has the history of Wisconsin. And they also advertised in the paper for people who wanted to get these first day covers. When covers have inserts, it adds a nice level of attraction to your exhibit. They aren't necessary. Some people don't like them. I love them. And the other side here, the Wingram, the Madison Philatelic Supply Company likely stuffed some of these Madison Stamp Club envelopes with a little advertisement, a little invitation to do business with their company. The next category I call hand painted, again, I'm a little hand prepared. So these are all that you're looking at are either pencil drawings or watercolors. Now we're getting into first day covers where the cachet is valuable, and therefore the price you pay for these is more, because in the case of Gladys Adler, she probably made a dozen of these, whereas the printed cachets we'll see later, some of those companies produced tens of thousands of first day covers. And I shown this one on the previous page, but it was from an artist in Cedar Rapids. Someone had sent him a letter with the letterhead of his, I assume his home or his business, and asked him to draw something on the envelope. This is one of a kind. I doubt another one exists. And the price reflects that. Finally, the biggest part of a first day cover exhibit is always the printed cachets. Some of them were printed, as I said, by the tens of thousands. So when you show these in my 10 frame exhibit, this probably occupies 5 or 6 frames. So a big part of the exhibit. So the challenge is always how to break it down into smaller chunks so judges and viewers can look at it. When I first did this, I used to organize these alphabetically. And that got me by for a while until judges finally said to me, "Do you think alphabetical organization is very creative?" And I thought, well, I guess not. So I stopped doing it alphabetically. And my latest version of this exhibit, I've organized these by the printing method that the preparer used to print the cachet. So you can see here, this is part of the alphabetical exhibit that I had. I have Stephen Anderson first, then Art Craft, but I did say how it was printed, letterpress or engraved, monochrome, etc. And I did that for all of my exhibits. Here you see silk screen. This was Ira Bennett from Eau Claire, and his method of producing first day covers was silk screen. Now, if you look at these 4 covers, they're all different, even though at first glance, they seem the same. So here you have, on 3 of them, you have 1848 and 1948 on either side of the banner that the eagle is holding. The one in the upper right only has 1948. Some of them have the date below the Wisconsin banner at the bottom. Some don't. Some are in different colors. They're all a bit different. And I try to show every variation that I have. Not everybody does that. And I guess it's to each his own. Let me just take a break here and say that first day cover exhibiting is a good place to start because there's been a template laid out over the last 10 years that a beginning exhibitor, if you look at enough exhibits, you can see all the various sections of the exhibit. Now, in the last few years, people have become a little more creative and they don't follow that template quite as much. These tend to be experienced first day cover exhibitors, and that doesn't include me. This is the only first day cover exhibit I've ever done. And what I'm saying is you can organize this however you wish. Here's some covers by Walter Crosby, and he's known for creating thermograph covers, which these all are, and he puts a photograph in each design. Here's another example of if I have a cover created by, in this case, JD, and he printed them on 4 different color envelopes. I want to show the 4 different cover envelopes. On the right, the Delco Stamp Club was a stamp club at Delco Corporation, and they would design a postcard whenever a new stamp came out. So this was their crack at the Wisconsin stamp, and it's printed on photographic paper, and they always marked on the back first day cancellation. It's very hard to read here, but that's a reduced example of the back of that postcard. When you show the back of a cover or a postcard, it's often the case that you reduce it to show that it's the back. And just a couple more. The one on the right is a little distorted when I scanned it, so we'll just go on to the next. Now, this particular designer, the Fidelity Stamp Company, I'm going to go through these quickly. Here's 5, 13 different varieties, and I don't believe I included all of them because there's more than that. And they not only differ in color, but these early ones, if you can look here, it's this Fidelity Color Craft at the bottom left on the left-hand side. The one above it doesn't have that. So there's other variations within the design. And again, just some more different kind of covers. This man printed these on photo paper. Excuse me, I'm pointing at it like you know what I'm pointing at. On the upper right, this is printed on photographic paper, and he pastes it on a cover. The one on the lower left, this is a very prolific Wisconsinite who made a lot of caches for over 50 years. And he was from Clintonville, and his name was Meisel, and this is his cover. And then you get on the right-hand side here, the same man who printed the covers on the left printed these favor cards that he gave to friends, and they make a nice part of the exhibit too. So that's the bulk section of the exhibit, all these different caches. Companies often use first day covers to promote their business. So that's what these are, the promotional caches. On a House of Farnham cachet on the right with the cow, it included a little statement from the Hartford Insurance Company. They send them to clients. The same with the Green and Low Paper Company in Connecticut. They sent them to clients as well. Some people on the upper left here, created their own. The black type in the upper left-hand corner looks like it was done by a typewriter, as was the address. But if you look at the purple cachet, those of us who were school teachers 50 years ago know what a mimeograph machine is. That looks like it was mimeographed. On the right, there's always what I call mismatch caches, and that is on the top, somebody had an art craft cachet envelope intended to commemorate the 4 chaplains memorial stamp that would be issued a week before the Wisconsin stamp, but they saved it and put a Wisconsin stamp on it. So the stamp's from Wisconsin, but the cachet is commemorating something else. The same with the other two. The one at the bottom was probably intended for the January 1948 New York stamp that commemorated the 50th anniversary of the airmail. So people have these cachet covers that haven't been used in their drawer, and they just pull them out and put a different stamp on them when that stamp comes out. The ones on the left are uncached. The one on the bottom first is from the Postmaster General of the United States, who sent out covers to all of his friends for many years. So he would send some of these to Madison, to the postmaster, who would service them and send them to the postmaster's friends. I think all the postmasters did that. I don't think it was considered bad form, but I'm not sure of that. The one on top, there was a cover preparer, Adam Burt, who lived a long life, as you can see from that. He died at 102 years old. He always used number 5 envelopes, and they're kind of cute. They're different than most of the other ones you see. On the right, more Enschler Floral Company first day covers with auxiliary markings on them. All of them are returned to sender. Postcards. They're fair game too. And here's 2 pages of postcards from my exhibit. Finally, or not finally, but these are combination first day covers. That's when a stamp, usually of a similar topic, is attached to the first day cover, and they both go through the canceling machine. So all of these have the 1934 stamp that was issued to commemorate Wisconsin's tercentennial. It had its first day in Green Bay. So people took envelopes that had cachets on them, not only put the 1948 stamp, but they put the 1934 stamp on as well. This is the same thing over here, except this was a 1948 first day cover that someone then took our sesquicentennial stamp and issued in 1998 and added it to that. And they also added this cachet that wasn't on there in 1948. They added that later. And also when the Wisconsin flag was issued as part of the flags of our nation, a combination cover was made. Okay. On the first day, lots of covers were mailed overseas. So the idea is to collect as many as you can that are different and to exotic places. Now, I don't know if Kuala Lumpur is exotic, but it's certainly more exotic than Montreal. And finally, at the end of a first day cover exhibit, one is pretty much expected to show the stamp used after the first day to pay the various postal rates that were current when it was issued. Let me say that differently. It shows the various postal rates in use at the time that these covers were mailed. So here you see some that were domestic use, first class private mail, first class mail and special delivery. And here are some sent to foreign countries. Germany, the ones to Athens, Greece, the red and white envelope is kind of unique. I've asked many people why the red and white envelope with these red lozenges on them? And I don't know the answer to that. And the people I asked don't know either. So if you can tell me, were these common? I don't really know. These weren't expensive items to acquire, but they are kind of interesting.
Aren't the lozenges just for airmail?
Oh, well, the red and blue lozenges are used on airmail covers, as well as drawings and other things in red and blue. But I've never seen one with just red lozenges. So I don't know. It's it did pay the proper airmail rate to Greece. So maybe. Finally, every exhibit is expected to have a closing page that sort of brings everything that tells this is the end of the story, and it's very difficult. Creating this page is very difficult. So the bottom cover, if you look at it, it was mailed on May 29th to Fall River, and after some effort to find the addressee on June 7th, it was put back in the mail at Fall River and returned to sender. Now, I thought that told a nice end to the story. We had spent these days celebrating the Wisconsin Centennial, and one way we did it was sent out thousands and thousands of first day covers. This one could not be delivered, so it was returned to Madison because we couldn't find the sender. And I thought that was a nice end of the story. And that's when you learn that not all the judges think your end of the story was quite as exciting as you thought it was. So on that note, I'd be happy to answer any questions.